Okay, so I wanted to talk about some tactics for folks that might be using LinkedIn in your outbound strategy. Two different ways that you can leverage LinkedIn. And for the first one, it is the way that I'm traditionally using LinkedIn, which is compounding a phone conversation into social where appropriate. Then the second one might be just helping you understand who to target and who not to target when on LinkedIn. And unfortunately, a lot of folks don't know some of these fundamentals. And so when I talk about all of the outbound strategies that I deploy, it always starts with the list, right? So the list is the strategy, and we want to make sure that we're targeting folks that we actually want to be speaking to at companies we believe we can help. Now, once we have understand that component, then the next thing we want to do is spend our time in channels where we can actually reach the people that we're trying to engage. So if it's the phone, that means that I can get them on the phone. If it's an email, it means they respond. If it's on LinkedIn, it means they're active. If you can't get to one of those outcomes, then you shouldn't spend a lot of time on those channels. So for LinkedIn, um, a lot of folks who are using the phone are using sequencers, cadencing tools where they're supposed to use a phone, then do an email and a social touch. They'll act as if every single lead is created equal, and they're not. Let me show you two examples of where traditionally I'm going to compound a conversation from a phone call into social, but in some cases I might not actually do the work that you might think because it wouldn't make sense. So I'm going to move on, right? I'm going to go to the next record. If I think about this use case, the first thing I'm talking about is these are people we've already spoken to. So we know we can get them on the phone. The value of compounding that record into social is that you might be able to engage them, nurture them, surround the target, find others like them. But if they're not active on the social on that channel, it makes no sense to spend the time doing it. The second use case that I want to talk about is if you can't get them on the phone, you've tried the phone and you can't get to them or their voicemail, it's not worth calling. Then how do you potentially use some tactics around social to engage and start conversations that are not the good old fashioned connect and pitch slap? So here we go. Let's pretend I just made a call. I got Michael on the line. There's a secondary connection. So the first thing I'm going to do is if I was compounding this conversation, I'm going to make sure that it's going to make sense for me to even reach out to him in the first place on this channel. I just got off the phone. We didn't set a meeting, but maybe he said call back in the future or not now. Maybe he just hung up on me. I'm going to come to his profile, take a look at his profile one more time, and I'm going to look to see how active he is here. Well, in this case, it's pretty active. There's some activity from just within 6 days ago, and multiple times it looks like per week he's doing some stuff here. I can see how active he is in terms of just engaging, liking other articles, etc., other people's posts, and then is he actually posting? Okay, perfect. If that's the case, then what I might do here is just follow Mike McCall and see for his next post to come out there. If it was like a really negative outcome, in my opinion, like a quick hang up, etc., maybe I'll just follow him, see what he says on LinkedIn, and if it's intriguing, I can go start a conversation at another time. In his chats, I can comment, I can share the information he's sharing as thoughtful and meaningful. Take some time to do that if this is a high value target. Now, if it was more positive, where it's like down the road, then what I might do is actually after the call, I know he's active here, so I'm going to go in. I'm going to send a personal connection request. I'm going to add the note here, and I can actually create a vidyard like I'm doing right now, and introduce myself. Say, hey, we just spoke on the phone. I know you said to reach out down the future. I thought I'd add you to my network here on LinkedIn, just in case things change. Pleasure to connect with you. I'll talk down the road as discussed. Right, very short video. More connection request, literally write something out and say, hey, thanks for the call just now. Personalized vidyard, put it in there, send. So now I've compounded that conversation into somebody on social who's pretty active. And if I hit that follow button, but also the connection request, one of those others, I'm going to be able to now see the content as it comes up. Doesn't look like he's a creator, so I can't ding the little ding button. But this is someone who's active where it makes sense to compound through. And if you're not too shy, give a little bit of a face-to-face and as relevant as possible. You can accomplish this same type of tactic if it's not on LinkedIn, where you see that they're not very active, but you see their profile. You could send them an email, record the video, and say, hey, doesn't look like you're very active on LinkedIn, but I thought I'd compound this over to email. And let me show you where that might make sense. Let's say I connected with Mike, and Mike said not interested or call me down back in the future. Whoops. Well, I look at Mike's profile right now, and if I look at his activities, it looks like Mike's got a pretty bare bones, almost looks just like a resume, right? And if I look at his activity on social, um, his last post was a year ago, which was also, or his last post was a year ago, and that was the last time he engaged on anything. It was about his company. Okay. So this is a situation where if I did a connection request or I did a follow, whatever, makes no sense. However, I could still do a tactic where I use LinkedIn to get a picture and go, hey, Mike, face to face here. I'm sending you this email. It doesn't look like you're very active over on social, but I just wanted to follow up our phone conversation with a little bit more context. So this is one way where you can compound, use the channel, but you're not really using the channel to provide a unique and differentiated personalized experience that doesn't take a lot of extra effort, but might open up extra channels for future follow-up. And so what you're going to want to do here in this case is social isn't going to make sense for your ongoing connection stuff, right? If he's in a sequence to go do a bunch of connects and follows and likes, etc., it's not going to happen. This is a wasted a piece of our time. However, if you send that email and he opens, well, now in the future, say he said call back in next quarter. In 6 weeks, you might be able to follow up with something relevant about his company and what your product does via an email and say, hey, I'm looking forward to talking to you. I know you mentioned it was going to be like another 6 weeks. Looking forward to talking to you. You might want to do that. Me personally, I'm just going to call them, and I would call them in half the amount of time that I would otherwise when stated in the phone call to restart that conversation. All right, last tactic is, let's say we're looking at these same two users and neither of them were phone picker-uppers. Well, if neither of them are phone picker-uppers, we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to use LinkedIn in a different way. So I can't compound the conversation in LinkedIn with Mikhail's channel here, but if I see that he's super active, he's posting multiple times a day, the first thing I'm probably going to do is just follow. Following him will allow me to start to see more of his content in my feed, see what he's posting about, make sure to like, engage, comment where it makes sense, and then eventually maybe move towards a direct connection request with personalized message, etc. When the time's right. Now, in the case of Mike, can't get him on the phone. I'm on social. Clearly, he's not active on social. Not much I can do here. So I can't I can't go back and like a post from a year ago. I guess I could, but it's not going to see it. Send a connection request, not going to see it. I'm going to be restricted to other channels. In this case, if I've tried the phone, can't get through, trying social, doesn't look like he's very active, I might be restricted to just email. Now, again, me personally, I focus on people that I can get on the phone first and I compound across it, but you can do the same channel activation across all channels and then leverage the insight you're getting from one to compound into the other. Hopefully these tips are pretty helpful. Also curious what you're doing on LinkedIn to maximize your prospecting time and effort to get the most success on the channel.